My name's Elias. I'm 29, and I've always been the other child, the one no one noticed unless they needed something. If my younger brother Lucas wanted the last slice of cake, he got it. If he messed up at school, it was just a rough patch. When I aced my college finals, my mom asked if I could stop bragging, and if I ever brought it up, I'd hear the same thing. Why are you always trying to compete? Lucas needs more support than you. I learned to live with it. Not happily, not peacefully, but I adapted. I worked hard, kept my head down, and carved out my own life far away from home. I got a job in tech, moved into a quiet apartment a few cities over, and built something I could call mine. I still visited, sent birthday cards, remembered anniversaries, paid attention to what people liked, but the affection never flowed both ways, especially not from my mother. Lucas was always the center of gravity in our family. He had this charm that everyone seemed to fall for, this way of turning every mistake into a lovable quirk. He blew through jobs, relationships, even once totaled the family car. But every time, my mom brushed it off with a soft smile and he's just figuring things out. I wasn't jealous, not in the way people think. I didn't want his mess of a life. What I wanted was acknowledgement. A moment. A thank you, Elias, that didn't sound like an afterthought or come attached to a request for money. The final crack didn't start with something big. It started with an email. My mom sent out a group message, me, my aunts, cousins, even some extended family I hadn't seen in years, inviting us all to Lucas's birthday dinner. It was going to be a celebration of his growth, she wrote. A chance to honor the man he's becoming. That line made me pause. Lucas was turning 27. He was between jobs again, had moved back home, again, and was still borrowing money from half the people on that email list. But fine. I marked the date, booked the time off, even picked up a card and a thoughtful gift, a framed map of all the cities Lucas said he wanted to visit someday. I showed up on time, dressed decent, gift-wrapped. The dinner was at this fancy little restaurant downtown, one of those spots with mood lighting and absurdly small portions. My mom was already there, holding court at the head of the long table, glowing like it was her birthday. She waved me over with that fake smile she pulls out for company and gave me the standard, "So glad you could make it." No hug, no warmth, just obligation wrapped in civility. Lucas walked in 10 minutes later, flanked by his girlfriend and some friends I didn't recognize. Everyone stood up like royalty had entered the room. The laughter got louder, the compliments started pouring in, and I faded to the background like always. I tried to make small talk with my uncle, but he kept drifting into stories about Lucas's ambitions and potential. My cousin asked if I was still working that coding job, and then immediately pivoted to asking if I could help Lucas build an app idea he had. I excused myself and went to the bar for a moment alone. By the time dinner was served, I had given up on meaningful conversation. I just wanted to eat, hand over the gift, say happy birthday, and go home. But of course, the universe, or maybe my mother, had other plans. When dessert came out, so did the speeches. First, Lucas gave a predictably messy, half-serious thank you speech, peppered with jokes about how he wouldn't have made it here without his amazing support system. He thanked his girlfriend, his friends, and finally his mom, who teared up on cue. No mention of me, not even a glance. Then my mother stood up. She held her glass high and smiled, that tight, theatrical smile she saves for moments she wants to be remembered. "Let's raise a glass," she said, "to the child who actually matters." There was a beat of silence, just a split second, but it was long enough. Long enough for every pair of eyes at the table to flick toward me. The laughter that followed wasn't even subtle. My uncle chuckled. My cousin snorted into her drink. Even Lucas gave that smug, half-laugh he always used when someone took a jab at me. I felt heat rise in my chest, not anger at first, just the raw sting of humiliation, of being so publicly sidelined by the woman who was supposed to love me without conditions. I didn't say anything at first, just smiled, nodded slowly. Then I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a white envelope. Nothing fancy, just a plain, sealed letter I'd been holding on to for a while. I stood up, walked around the table, and placed it gently in front of my mom. "If tonight's about celebrating the one who matters," I said, voice even but firm, "then this must belong to him." The room went quiet, dead quiet. My mother stared at the envelope like it had teeth. She didn't touch it at first, just looked up at me with a faint crease in her brow, trying to read the situation. Lucas looked confused. Everyone else went still, unsure whether this was a joke or a scene. But I didn't move. I just folded my hands in front of me and waited. Eventually, she opened it. And that's where everything started to unravel. She unfolded the letter slowly, like it might explode. Her eyes scanned the page, and I saw the flicker of confusion turn into something darker, tightened jaw, narrowed eyes, the way she always looked when things slipped out of her control. Her fingers trembled just slightly, but she was trying hard to pretend they weren't. Lucas leaned over to peek at it, but she angled it away from him, clutching it like it was private, like it was hers. "What? What is this?" she asked, her voice low but sharp. I stayed standing. "Read it aloud," I said calmly. "Since we're all here to celebrate honesty and family." She didn't. Of course she didn't. My mother's pride is like granite, cold, polished, and nearly impossible to crack. But Lucas was already snatching it from her hands with that careless grin he always wore when he thought the spotlight was about to land on him. "Relax, Mom," he said, laughing a little as he smoothed the paper. "Let's see what Elias got me. Hope it's not another lecture." The room held its breath. He started reading, his voice cheerful at first, like it was another toast. "To the one who matters. Since I've never been given much of a chance to say this out loud, I figured your birthday was as good a time as any." He slowed down, his grin faltering as he read ahead. "I've spent years watching this family bend over backward to make you feel like a king." He stopped, looked up at me. "Is this a joke?" "Keep reading," I said, still standing there, calm on the outside, heart thundering inside my chest. Lucas glanced around, now visibly uncomfortable, but pride got the better of him. He continued, but the tone had shifted. Gone was the casual humor. His voice wavered. "Watching our mother turn every gathering, every conversation, every drop of attention into a mirror for you to admire yourself in. I've watched you fail upward while others cleaned up your messes, and somehow you still got the credit, the praise, the second and third and fourth chances." Now the murmurs started. Chairs creaked. A few people exchanged looks. My aunt shifted in her seat, and my cousin's mouth fell open. I stayed still, letting the silence gather weight. Lucas tried to scoff, tried to throw on that usual smirk, but his voice cracked. "Okay, Elias, what is this?" "That," I said, pointing at the letter, "is my gift to you. And to Mom. And to everyone here who's been part of the lie we've all been telling for years." My mother finally found her voice. "You think this is appropriate? You think humiliating your brother on his birthday is something to be proud of?" My jaw tightened, but I didn't raise my voice. "You humiliated me the moment you raised that glass and said what you said." And everyone here laughed, like I wasn't sitting at the same table. Lucas tossed the letter onto the table like it was garbage. "This is pathetic. Seriously, man, you waited until my birthday to pull this stunt? Grow up." I laughed once, bitterly. "You still don't get it. You never will." There was more in that envelope, of course. That letter was just the beginning. What no one at that table knew, not yet, was that I had spent the last 6 months quietly untangling myself from this family's dysfunction, cutting the cords they didn't even know they had wrapped around me. No more emergency money transfers for Lucas. No more helping my mom file taxes she never thanked me for. No more being the backup plan. And I had something else in that envelope too. Something official. Something legally binding. But that part, I hadn't told anyone yet, not even my closest friend, because I wanted to do it right. I wanted them to see, to feel the shift when the ground started to move under their feet. Tonight was just the prelude, the first strike, and I wanted every word to land. Still standing, I reached into my jacket again and placed a second, smaller envelope on the table, this time directly in front of Lucas. "What now?" he said, arms crossed, his voice rising. "Another speech? You want applause or something?" I looked at him. Really looked at him. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel small next to him. I didn't feel like the second choice or the shadow. "No," I said quietly. "Just accountability." That's when Lucas opened the second envelope. And everything stopped. He blinked at the contents. "Read the words." "Read them again." Then looked up at me, face pale. My mother snatched it from him and scanned the page. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. The second envelope wasn't long. Just a few sentences, printed neatly on legal letterhead. But the weight of it hit like a sledgehammer. Lucas stared at me like I'd just detonated something sacred. My mother, meanwhile, had gone from confused to flushed with rage. Her lips parted, closed, then parted again, like she wanted to scream but couldn't find the right weapon yet. Because what she was holding was a formal letter from my lawyer, confirming that the ownership of our grandfather's cabin, the one my mother and Lucas had always treated like their personal vacation home, had been officially transferred to me. The cabin wasn't just a sentimental spot. It was our grandfather's legacy. The only real asset he left behind when he passed 3 years ago. He'd adored that cabin, maintained it until his final days, invited us there every summer. But more than that, he'd loved me. Quietly, steadily. Even when my mother brushed off my milestones or treated me like a nuisance, Grandpa Dean had made it clear I was the one he trusted. But of course, no one asked me what happened after the funeral. No one cared that he left behind a handwritten note for me with the keys. No one paid attention when my mother announced, with confident finality, "The cabin will go to Lucas eventually. Your grandfather would have wanted it that way." Everyone nodded. I didn't even bother arguing. I just waited. Waited until the paperwork cleared. Waited until the property taxes and transfer documents bore my name. Waited until everything was airtight. And now, I was done waiting. I don't understand. My mom finally managed, her voice tight, like she was forcing civility through clenched teeth. "This must be a mistake. The cabin wasn't yours to give." I turned to her slowly. "No, but it was Grandpa's to leave. And he gave it to me. He trusted me to handle it properly. And for the last 3 years, I've let you and Lucas use it like it belonged to you. I covered the maintenance, the repairs, the utilities. You know how much I've paid to keep that place standing." She didn't answer, just stared at the letter like it might morph into something different if she blinked enough. Lucas stood up, so suddenly his chair skidded back. "So what? You're evicting us. You're going to be that guy now." "No," I said simply. "I'm ending the lie. Starting today, neither of you has access to the property. I've changed the locks. I've notified the caretaker. And legally, you have no rights to it. So whatever summer plans you were cooking up, cancel them." The restaurant was silent. Even the servers had paused nearby, pretending to rearrange menus while very obviously eavesdropping. I didn't blame them. "This is petty," Lucas spat. "Unbelievably petty. Just because Mom made a joke." I stared at him. "It's not about the joke. It's never been about just one thing. It's years, Lucas. Years of being sidelined, laughed at, ignored. I didn't make a scene tonight. You did. I just handed you the truth." He stepped toward me. "You think you're better than us now? You think being some tech guy in the city means you can look down on your own family?" "No," I said calmly but firmly. "I think choosing peace over chaos means I don't have to keep letting people like you walk all over me." My mother looked stunned, maybe even a little afraid. She wasn't used to me speaking like this, not without backing down a second later. She opened her mouth, and I knew what was coming. The guilt trip, the trembling voice, the "we're family" speech that always came when things didn't go her way. So I cut her off. "I'm not doing this anymore. I came tonight because I thought maybe you'd surprise me. Maybe, just once, you'd acknowledge I existed in this family as something other than the fallback plan. Instead, you raised a glass and told everyone I didn't matter. So I made a choice." Lucas let out a bitter laugh. "You think this makes you look strong? You look like a bitter little kid." I tilted my head slightly. "Maybe. Or maybe I finally stopped playing the role you wrote for me." My mother's voice finally broke through. Quiet. Controlled. "We'll talk about this at home. Privately." "There's nothing left to talk about," I said. "The cabin is mine. The boundaries are set. You're not entitled to my silence anymore." I picked up my coat, tucked my chair in. The letter sat in the center of the table like a dropped match on a dry field. I didn't bother with goodbyes. As I turned to walk away, I heard a fork clatter to the floor. My cousin whispering, "Did you know about this?" A quiet gasp from someone else. A glass tipping over. But the one sound that stuck with me, really stuck, was my mother's voice, low and shaken, asking Lucas, "What have we done?" I didn't wait to hear the answer. I didn't drive straight home after that dinner. I pulled into an empty overlook just outside the city, parked, and sat there watching the lights shimmer across the hills. My phone buzzed nonstop. Missed calls. Voicemails. Mostly from Lucas. A few from my mother. None of them got answered. Not yet. I needed time. Not to think. My decision had already been made. But to breathe. For the first time in years, I didn't feel buried under them. And that silence? It felt like freedom. The next morning, the messages turned from confused to angry. Lucas texted, "You blindsided us. Real classy, man. That letter's a joke. You think a cabin makes you better than your family? Call me back. Now." Then from Mom, "We need to talk about last night. You embarrassed your brother in front of everyone. You've always been so dramatic. Can't we handle this like adults? Elias, I'm serious. Don't destroy our family over this." And then finally, "Fine. Do what you want. But don't expect us to come crawling when you realize what you've done." I didn't reply. Instead, I emailed my lawyer to confirm the lock change was complete. He'd hired a property manager on my behalf, someone local to the cabin, to oversee everything moving forward. I'd given clear instructions. No one, especially Lucas or my mother, was to set foot on the property without written permission from me. But I knew my family, and I knew they wouldn't just walk away quietly. 2 days later, I got a call from the caretaker, Jamie. She was blunt and no nonsense, the type of person who didn't sugarcoat. "Hey, Elias," she said. "So, your brother and a woman claiming to be your mother showed up this morning." I closed my eyes. Let me guess. Try to act like they still owned the place. Yup. They had keys, old ones, which don't work anymore, and tried to tell me they were just dropping by to grab a few personal items. I could almost hear Lucas's smug voice in my head, trying to charm his way in. "How'd you handle it?" I asked. "Firm but polite," she said. "Told them the property was under new management, names on the deed is yours, and if they didn't leave, I'd have to call the sheriff." They got loud. Your mom, said you were being vindictive." The guy started yelling about lawyers. I sighed. "Thanks, Jamie. If they show up again, just go ahead and make the call. I'll back you up legally." "Will do. And for what it's worth, I've dealt with a lot of entitled people over the years. You're doing the right thing." After hanging up, I sat in silence for a while. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even surprised. This was who they were. My mother had spent years pretending her favoritism was just support, that her neglect of me was letting me be independent. Lucas had built his whole personality around being adored and enabled. Of course, they thought they could ignore a legal document. They'd ignored my boundaries for decades. But this time, there would be consequences. The next time I heard from them, it wasn't through texts. It was a group email. Subject line: "Family should forgive." The body of the email was long, clearly written by my mother, with Lucas probably standing over her shoulder. It was filled with passive-aggressive remarks cloaked in sentimentality. Things like, "We know you're hurting, Elias. This family has made mistakes, but love should come first. You're acting out of bitterness, and you'll regret pushing us away. Lucas deserves support during this tough time, not hostility. We'll forgive you when you're ready to come back to your senses." That last line was the breaking point. They'd forgive me? I didn't reply. Instead, I sent them a copy of the final estate documents, this time with highlighted sections showing that not only was I the sole legal owner of the cabin, but that I had also formally cut off financial support, something I'd never announced out loud before. Yes, for years, I had quietly sent money, covered shortfalls, paid surprise bills when Lucas bounced checks or when Mom's utilities were overdue. No more. I had formally separated myself from their finances. My lawyer helped me file the necessary documents to ensure I could never be held liable for any debts they might attempt to push my way in the future. I closed the shared emergency account, changed my phone number, locked down my social media. I went nuclear, but carefully, legally, and permanently. And then I waited. They went quiet. No more messages. No more calls. For 3 weeks, I didn't hear a word. It was eerie, but also peaceful, until I got a voicemail from my cousin Mel, one of the few family members I still somewhat trusted. "Hey, Elias. I wasn't sure whether to reach out, but things are kind of blowing up. Your mom's trying to guilt the whole family into cutting you off. She told everyone you stole the cabin. That grandpa left it to both of you, which I know is a lie. Lucas is apparently crashing at a friend's place now because your mom's house isn't big enough, and he's blaming you for ruining his summer. It's bad. Just thought you should know. And for the record, I'm on your side." I thanked her. That message was the final nail. The last scrap of guilt I had left? Gone. They had always expected me to be the safety net, the quiet son, the fixer. But the truth is, there's only so long you can keep setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm before you turn to ash. And I was done burning. That summer, I took 2 weeks off work and drove to the cabin myself. Alone. When I pulled up the long dirt road, something in me shifted. The air was still. The trees whispered gently with the wind. It was the same cabin I'd visited as a kid, same creaky porch, same screen door that whined when you opened it. But it felt different now. Not like a family home. Not like something borrowed or temporarily loaned to me. It felt earned. I stepped inside and lit a fire. Sat on the couch with a book. Drank coffee on the deck the next morning while deer wandered past the clearing. And I didn't think about my mother once. Not out of spite. Just peace. I never replied to her last email. never called Lucas back. I heard through Mel that they both eventually stopped trying to spin their story after most of the family started ignoring them too. The illusion of Lucas being the golden child didn't hold up once I stopped funding it. It's been almost a year now. The cabin is mine. My life is mine. And the silence I once feared is now my sanctuary. Some people say family is everything. But I've learned that family isn't who shares your blood. It's who shows up for you when you need them, who sees you, who chooses you. And for once in my life, I chose me.